Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today I want to give you a small tip on getting more realistic zero fuel weights when planning your flights using Simbrief. So you can see right now I'm setting up a flight Eurowings 12 from Cologne to Berlin, and this one is planned with the Phoenix A320, but these tips apply to literally any airplane in our simulator. So we are going to plan the flight using 167 passengers, as you can see down here. And if we just hit the calculate and compare button, then we can see that it comes up with a zero fuel weight here of almost 59.8 tons, which is a very heavy aircraft. Now, let's just quickly hit the generate flight button and have a look at what Simbrief gives us, so that we can then continue with this video. Now, if we have a look into here, we can see that on the payload screen we get 167 passengers, but this also comes up with 2.5 tons of cargo. And that is something that is rather unrealistic for a flight like this. Now, the reason why Simbrief does this is that per passenger it also takes 23 kilograms of baggage into account. Now, this can be changed for every individual airframe that you are planning with, but if you want to do it a little bit more general, or if you just don't want to bother creating all the separate airframes, then here's what you can do. Now, keeping this one in mind over here, or we can likewise just do this on the added flight page by using the calculate and compare button, but let's just remember the previous value. 167 passengers gave us 2.5 tons of cargo, while giving us at the same time, when we hit calculate and compare, a zero fuel weight of 59,727. Now, the important point here is that in the real world, not every passenger carries a 23 kilogram bag. Now, most airlines don't even allow for a 23 kilogram bag these days anymore. But even if they do, then usually bags weight a lot less. So the average weight of a bag is usually somewhere around 13 kilograms. You can try this on your own. If you take your own suitcase and pack it all up with clothing and stuff that you would typically carry to holidays, then you will find that you will normally end up somewhere around around 13 kilograms and not around 23, even though it is certainly possible to reach those values. But it's rather the exception than the norm. Now, in any case, if we have a look at a flight that we're planning right now, where we're going from Cologne to Berlin, so we are just doing a domestic flight, but this would even apply to non-domestic and to flights which, you know, mostly aren't holiday charter flights. Holiday charters are where you get the large weights, and, well, those city trips like we're doing over here are usually the flights where you carry rather little weight. So 167 passengers, with my experience coming from the low cost, but also with a little bit of experience asking friends who fly for carriers like Eurowings, like let's call it typical city carriers. They say that normally passengers on these flights carry with carry-on luggage and maybe a couple of bags, but not too many. So we said earlier that we had 2.5 tons of cargo weight planned over here. So what we can now do in Simbrief is, here we've got our passenger count, then we've got a freight count. Now don't confuse freight with passenger bags. The freight over here is additional cargo capacity sold by the airline for cargo transport purposes. So the freight is additional freight that you would carry, but then you've got the payload button and you've got the zero fuel weight button. Now, we can simply convince Simbrief that we want to lower the amount of bags carried by entering the passenger numbers and a zero fuel weight. Now, as we said earlier, we've got an estimated zero fuel weight of 57.8 over here, with 2.5 tons of cargo included. Now, let's go ahead and reduce that cargo amount to, let's say, 500 kilograms, which is a much more realistic value to carry. So we are now going to take that zero fuel weight here, 59,727. We're going to subtract 2 tons of it, so we end up with 57,727. So let's go ahead and enter that, 57,727. And if we now go ahead and hit the generate flight button, then Simbrief is now going to correct the amount of bags carried and reduce them in order to match the zero fuel weight that we wanted while keeping the passenger numbers. So now you can see we've got 505 kilograms of cargo loaded in our holds, and that is what we are actually going to carry, and that is a much more realistic value for the actual weight at that we could expect for that amount of passengers in the real world. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, basically flight simmers are usually flying with zero fuel weights that are much too high for what you would realistically expect for a flight like that, and therefore I do judge it rather useful to know how to get to a more realistic zero fuel weight. Now, as I mentioned earlier, normally on those city trips, people don't carry too many suitcases. I mean, how often have you flown on a flight like that and you saw 167 people waiting at the baggage count in order to receive all their suitcases back? That doesn't happen too often. So, the most weight in terms of bags will be carried on holiday charter flights. Then you've got scheduled holiday flights where people already carry a little bit less, more like 13 kilograms per bag. So you could do your mathematics manually there by first hitting the compute button. Then you receive the amount of cargo Simbrief wants to put in. Then you can just, recalculate your number of passengers times, let's say 13 kilos, which is a more realistic expectation per bag. And then you will receive your actual numbers. So that way you are getting a much more believable weight of your airplane. Also, in relation to the Phoenix Airbus in particular, note that the version that Phoenix models is limited at 61 tons maximum zero fuel weight. Now, when you go for 160 passengers and you don't amend that cargo weight, you will typically exceed your maximum zero fuel weight already, and even if you're at the maximum zero fuel, then you will get rather close to your maximum landing weight there when taking typical reserve fuels in account. So again, if you want to fly with a little bit more realistic weights, then that is the way to go for by entering both the passenger numbers and the estimated zero fuel weight numbers. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I do hope you liked it. If you did, then be sure to let me know in the comments below, and if you're up for more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like as it does really help out the channel, and then I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one. If you really love my content, would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and see you all again on the next one.